it's a coming attraction of what is coming next.
Who's Mamdani?
Zohran Mamdani, the Muslim communist that is running for mayor in New York City, who obviously there's a whole rabbit hole we can go down there. He just looks kind of be like central casting, and his ideas are terrible. He wants the city to run the grocery stores, all that. But I think everyone's kind of, not everyone, but most people are missing the point of really what this is. This is yet another distress signal by young people to say, hey, if you're not going to fix our life economically, we're going to get very radical politically. Now, let's take a step back. President Trump won the youth vote in many states across the country, in many battleground states. One of the reasons he was able to win younger voters, and younger men, especially in big numbers, is that they were trying to get their leaders' attention. They said, hey, this guy, Donald Trump, he is pledging to go fix our economic anxiety. He is loud. He is going to get your attention. Donald Trump was a distress signal by a lot of young people, especially young men, that were stuck in a credit-centric renter economy.
Today, we're talking about something that should terrify every American who cares about freedom, prosperity, and the future of our cities. We're talking about the fall of New York City. Zohran Mamdani was just elected mayor of New York City, and if you don't know who he is, you should. He's a self-described Democratic Socialist. He's a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, the same organization that brought us AOC. He supports policies that would make Karl Marx proud. And he's just won control of America's largest city. This isn't just about New York. This is about the future of America, because what happens in New York City doesn't stay in New York City. It spreads. California's watching, Chicago's watching, every blue city and state is watching, and they're watching to see if his socialist experiment works. And if we don't stop it, this disease is going to metastasize across the country. Today, I'm going to break down exactly what he represents, the policies he supports, why they're dangerous, and what it means for the future of not just New York, but of America. We're going to talk about the Shirai Law and rent control. We'll discuss why socialism and communism always fail. We'll address the stunning ignorance of voters who keep electing these people. We'll look at the domino effect this could have on other blue states, and we'll tackle an uncomfortable question. Why are we allowing non-citizens and dual citizens to hold office in America? This is going to be a hard conversation, but it's a necessary one, because if we don't understand what's happening and why it's dangerous, we're going to lose our country one city at a time.
Courage, compassion, faith, freedom, truth. Welcome to Courage in the Darkness with your host, Philip Roberts. It's time to awaken America.
So let me tell you who just became the mayor of New York City, because the media is not going to give you the full picture. Zohran Mamdani is a 33-year-old former video game developer turned politician. He was born in Uganda to Iranian and Indian parents. His family immigrated to the United States when he was a child. He grew up in the UK and New York, went to private schools, and attended the University of Virginia. Now, I'm all for the American dream. People come in here legally, working hard, and building better lives. But here's where it starts to get concerning. Mamdani is a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, and not just a member, he's been a prominent figure in their movement. He rode AOC's coattails into office. He was elected to the New York State Assembly in 2020, representing Queens, and his voting record in the Assembly tells you everything you need to know about exactly what he'll do as mayor. He voted to defund the police. He pushed for rent control and housing regulations that devastated small landlords. He supported sanctuary city policies that protect illegal immigrants over American citizens. He advocated for higher taxes on businesses and wealthy residents, many of whom have already fled New York. His campaign rhetoric was pure socialism. Housing is a human right, healthcare is a human right, education is a human right. Everything is a right that the government must provide. Nothing is something you work for and earn. He ran on promises to expand rent control, increase taxes, implement the Green New Deal in New York, and defund police further while expanding social programs and fundamentally transform the city's economy away from capitalism. And New Yorkers elected him. They looked at the disaster that progressive policies have created over the past decade. Rising crime, fleeing residents, declining quality of life, businesses closing, and they said, let's double down. That's not just political disagreement, that's insanity.
Islam is trying to take over America.
We as Muslims want to implement here in the United States. We believe the Constitution should be replaced by the Quran.
First, the ones who don't accept the ruling of Islam, they must be fought.
I will abolish the Constitution.
So before it was by the sword, now it's getting themselves into parliament.
Mayoral candidate, Muslim. Vice President of the Minneapolis City Council, Muslim. Tramek, Michigan, Muslim. Mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, Muslim.
You live here, I want you to know as mayor, you're not welcome here.
Let's make one thing clear. Islam is trying to take over America. And we see this not just happening in America, but we see it happening in other countries, for example, the United Kingdom. And what's weird is people are just letting it happen. But let me tell you something. The way the enemy starts, he starts off small, and then he keeps on gaining small territory after small territory to the point where he has so much territory where it's going to affect you and your family. And I believe that this needs to be addressed, not just by the politicians, but this needs to be addressed by the body of Christ. We need a war in the place of prayer, war in the place of intercession. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Hey, it's time to sound the alarm. Jesus Christ is coming soon, and these days are just getting darker and darker.
One of his signature issues is rent control and tenant protection laws. He's been a major proponent of what's being called the Shirai Law, named after a tenant activist, which would dramatically expand government control over housing. Let me explain why this is economic suicide. Rent control sounds compassionate. Who doesn't want affordable housing? But rent control doesn't create affordable housing. It destroys housing. Here's what actually happens when you cap what landlords can charge. You remove the profit incentive to maintain and improve properties. So why would a landlord invest in upgrades if they can't recoup the costs through higher rent? They won't. So buildings deteriorate, landlords defer maintenance, properties fall into disrepair. Eventually, landlords abandon buildings entirely because they're losing money. The housing stock shrinks, making the affordable housing crisis worse. Meanwhile, rent control creates a lottery system. If you're lucky enough to have a rent-controlled apartment, you never leave, even if you don't need it anymore. A single person might stay in a 3-bedroom apartment forever because the rent's so cheap. This prevents families who actually need space from finding it. And who gets hurt the most? Poor people trying to enter the housing market because there's no supply. Wealthy people can still afford market rate apartments. Middle class people get squeezed, and poor people are locked out entirely. We've seen this movie before. New York City had rent control in the 1970s. The result? Landlords abandoned over 100,000 buildings. Entire neighborhoods looked like war zones. The South Bronx became a national symbol of urban decay. Buildings were literally burning because landlords would rather collect insurance than operate at a loss. San Francisco has strict rent control. They have one of the worst housing crises in America. Seattle tried it. Same result. Every city that implements rent control ends up with less housing, higher prices for non-controlled units, and deteriorating conditions. This isn't a theory. This is observed reality. And even liberal economists admit rent control doesn't work. Paul Krugman, no conservative, has called rent control one of the best established facts in economics. It's destructive. But Mamdani doesn't care about economics or evidence. He cares about ideology. He wants government control over housing. He wants to destroy private property rights. And he's using affordable housing as an excuse. The Shirai Law goes even further. It would make it nearly impossible to evict problem tenants. It would allow tenants to sue landlords for almost anything. It would require landlords to make expensive upgrades they can't afford. It would essentially transfer property rights from owners to tenants. What happens when you make being a landlord economically unviable? People stop being landlords. They sell to large corporations or the government. Small landlords, the ones who actually care about their properties and their tenants, get driven out. You end up with corporate mega owners or government housing projects. Neither of those options is good. Corporate landlords are soulless and profit maximizing. Government housing projects are disasters. We tried that in the 60s and 70s and created vertical slums that concentrated poverty and crime. But that's the socialist playbook. Destroy the middle, consolidate power at the top and bottom, and claim you're helping people. New Yorkers are about to learn a very, very expensive lesson about economic reality. You can ignore the laws of economics, but you can't escape the consequences. Let me be clear about what Mamdani represents. Socialism. Socialism. And socialism, when fully implemented, becomes communism. These aren't just political labels. These are economic systems that have failed everywhere that they've been tried. Socialism is government control of the means of production and distribution. Instead of private property and free markets, government owns or heavily regulates everything. Resources are allocated by the bureaucrats instead of by supply and demand. It sounds nice in theory. Everyone shares. No one is poor. Everyone gets what they need. It appeals to people's sense of fairness and compassion, but it doesn't work. It can't work because it violates human nature and economic reality. Socialism assumes people will work hard for the collective good even when they don't personally benefit, but that's not how humans are wired. People work hard when they can keep the fruits of their labor. When you take away that incentive, when everyone gets the same regardless of effort, productivity collapses. Why work hard if you don't get rewarded? Why innovate if you can't profit from your ideas? Why take risks if you don't benefit from success? Soviet workers had a saying. They pretend to pay us, we pretend to work. That's what happens when you remove incentives. This is basic economics in a free market. Prices signal information. High prices tell producers to make more, low prices tell them to make less. Profit and loss guide resources to their most productive uses. Government planners don't have that information. They can't know what people actually want or need. They can't process the billions of decisions that make the economy function. So they make mistakes, massive mistakes. The Soviet Union had bread lines, while warehouses full of shoes that no one wanted. Why? Because planners guessed wrong about what people needed. Without price signals, you can't efficiently allocate resources. When government controls everything, government officials become all-powerful, and power corrupts. You end up with a ruling class that lives lavishly while everyone else suffers. Every socialist country develops an elite political class with privileges that common people don't have. Special stores, better food, nicer housing, access to things ordinary citizens can't get. Communism promises equality. It delivers tyranny and poverty for everyone except for party leaders. We don't have to theorize. We have examples, lots of them. Soviet Union collapsed after 70 years. Tens of millions dead from famine, purges, and gulags. Economic stagnation, technological backwardness. Lost the Cold War because they couldn't keep up economically. China only survived by abandoning socialism and embracing capitalism. Still communist politically, but capitalist economically. Their success came from markets, not central planning. Cuba, economic basket case. People flee on rafts, risking their lives to escape. Average wage is $30 per month. Healthcare and education are supposedly free, but quality is abysmal. Venezuela, richest country in South America, became a humanitarian disaster in 20 years. Hyperinflation, food shortages, millions fled, socialist policies destroyed the most oil-rich nation on earth. North Korea, literal concentration camp masquerading as a country. People are starving while the Kim family lives in luxury. Every single time, socialism fails. And yet American leftists keep pushing it. Why? Because they're either ignorant of history or they think this time will be different. It won't be. Here's how it always goes. Socialists promise fairness and equality. They gain power through democratic elections. They implement redistributionist policies. The economy starts failing. And instead of admitting the policies don't work, they blame saboteurs and enemies. They crack down on dissent to maintain control. They expand government power to fix the problems their policies created. Individual rights disappear. You end up with totalitarianism. Every socialist experiment follows this path. Venezuela was a democracy before Chavez. Now it's a dictatorship. Russia was trying democracy in the 1990s. Now it's an authoritarian state. Why? Because socialism requires force. You can't make people give up their property and freedom voluntarily. You have to take it. And once government has that much power, it doesn't give back. This is what Mamdani is ushering into New York City. Maybe not immediately, maybe not intentionally, but the logic of his policies leads inevitably toward more government control, less individual freedom, and economic decline. And New Yorkers voted for it. The stunning ignorance of left-wing voters. I need to address something bluntly. The people who voted for Mamdani are either ignorant, delusional, or they want to watch the city burn. How do you look at the last decade of progressive policies in New York and think, we need more of this? Crime is up, murder, assault, robbery, all increasing. The subway is dangerous. Random attacks on Asian Americans, mentally ill homeless people pushing people onto tracks. But progressives defunded police and ended bail. So criminals are back on the streets immediately. Businesses are leaving. Major corporations have moved headquarters out of New York. Small businesses couldn't survive COVID lockdowns, the longest and strictest in the nation. Commercial real estate is collapsing. Office buildings sit empty. Residents are fleeing. New York lost over 300,000 residents in recent years. I'm one of those. I moved to Tennessee because I couldn't deal with the shit. Pardon my language. They're moving to Florida, Texas, North Carolina, red states with lower taxes, less crime, and better quality of life. Schools are failing. Progressive curriculum prioritizes social justice over actual education. Test scores are down. Chronic absenteeism is up. Parents are pulling kids out to homeschool or move to the suburbs. The cost of living is crushing. Taxes are among the highest in the nation. Housing is unaffordable. Everything is expensive. Middle-class families are barely hanging on. And what do New Yorkers do? They elect a socialist who promises to make all of it worse. More rent control, that'll destroy housing. Higher taxes, that'll drive out more businesses. More regulations, that'll kill entrepreneurship. More spending on social programs that don't work. Less money for police, less money for public safety. This is insanity. Literally doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. But here's why it happens. Propaganda works. Media tells these voters that progressive policies are good, that crime is caused by poverty and racism, not criminals, that businesses are greedy and should pay more, that high taxes fund important services, that socialism is compassionate, and people believe it because they don't know history, they don't understand economics, and they don't think critically. They just absorb whatever narrative they're fed. I'm trying to have conversations with leftists. I've showed them data. I've presented them facts. I've explained basic economics. And you know what happens? They dodge, they deflect, they change the subject, they get emotional. They call me names because they can't defend their positions with facts. So they rely on feelings and rhetoric. Housing is a human right. Okay, who provides it? Who pays for it? What happens to the property owners? The government should. With what money? Tax the rich. They already pay the most taxes, and they're leaving. Well, we need to stop them. So you'll trap people in the city, force them to stay? They don't think through the implications. They just repeat slogans. This is how democracies die. Not through coups or revolutions, through voters choosing their own destruction because they're too ignorant or ideological to see reality. Here's why this matters. Beyond New York City, what happens in New York City influences the entire country. New York is America's largest city. It's a cultural and economic center. It's the trendsetter. When New York does something, other cities watch, other states copy. If Mamdani's socialist policies appear to work, or even if they fail but the media spins them as successful, other blue cities are going to implement them. California is already going down this path. Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego, they're all electing progressives pushing similar policies. High taxes, strict regulations, rent control, defund police, open borders, and California is hemorrhaging residents. Over 500,000 people have left California in recent years. Businesses are relocating, even Hollywood is considering leaving. The state has the highest poverty rate in America when adjusted for the cost of living. But they keep doubling down because ideology matters more than results. Chicago just elected Brandon Johnson, another progressive who wants to expand social programs and raise taxes. Detroit, Philly, Seattle, Portland, Minneapolis, all going the same direction. And here's the scary part. These cities are getting worse. Well, the red cities are thriving. Austin, Nashville, Miami, Phoenix, Dallas, they're booming. People are moving there for jobs, lower costs, better quality of life. But instead of learning from success, blue cities are learning from failure. They see New York's decline and think, let's try that. It's like watching somebody walk off a cliff and you decide to follow them. The domino effect could reshape America. We could see a complete separation between red and blue America. Red states prosperous, growing, free, blue states declining, shrinking, controlled. And at some point, the productive people in the blue states, the ones that are paying the bills, they're going to leave. They're already leaving. What happens when only dependents and government employees remain? Who funds the programs? Who creates the wealth? Blue states will either collapse or they're going to beg the federal government for bailouts. And guess who pays for those? Taxpayers in the red states. So Texas, Florida will be subsidizing New York and California's failed experiments. That ain't fair. That's not right. But that's where we're headed. Unless enough people wake up and demand change. Unless voters in blue states stop electing socialists. Unless the media stops covering for failed policies. I'm not optimistic. Because the people making the decisions are true believers. They think socialism works and capitalism is evil. They think the government is the solution and freedom is the problem, and no amount of evidence will change their minds. So, red states need to prepare. We need to build walls, not physical walls, but policy walls that protect us from blue states. That will protect us from their dysfunction. No bailouts, no migration of failed policies, no exporting their problems to us. Let blue states experience the full consequences of their choices. Maybe then voters will learn. Non-citizens in office, let me raise something that's going to make people uncomfortable. Why the hell are we allowing non-citizens or dual citizens to hold office in America? Mamdani was born in Uganda. His parents are Iranian and Indian. He came to America as a child. Now he's mayor of New York City. I'm not questioning his legal right to hold office. He's a U.S. citizen. But I am questioning whether someone with such recent ties to other countries has America's best interests at heart. He grew up between the UK and New York. His formative years were split between foreign countries and America. His family's cultural background is Iranian and Indian. How much does he really identify as American versus as a global citizen? This matters because leadership requires loyalty. You need leaders who are fully committed to America's success, who understand and love American culture and values, who will put American citizens first. When you have leaders with divided loyalties, whether legal dual citizenship or cultural familial ties to other nations, how do you know they'll prioritize America? We've seen this play out. Omar famously said some people did something about 9/11 and has consistently advocated for policies that benefit Somalia and other foreign countries over America. She sends money to her family in Somalia while her district in Minnesota suffers. Rashida holds dual citizenship with Palestinian territories and has made clear her primary loyalty is to Palestinians, not Americans. AOC, whose family is from Puerto Rico, consistently pushes policies that would harm mainland Americans while benefiting Puerto Rico. These aren't hypothetical concerns. These are real examples of representatives whose loyalties are questionable. And it's not just progressives. Plenty of politicians with foreign ties or dual loyalties make decisions that benefit other countries over America. They maintain property in other nations. They have business interests overseas. They send their kids to foreign schools. The founders understood this danger. That's why they required the president to be a natural-born citizen. They wanted to ensure undivided loyalty. We should extend that principle to all federal offices and major state or local positions. If you want to lead America, you should be fully American. No dual citizenship, no divided loyalties, no recent immigration. Is that harsh? Maybe. But look what's happening. We're electing people who fundamentally don't believe in American values, who want to transform America into something unrecognizable, who have more affinity for foreign ideologies than American principles. Mamdani is a socialist. Socialism is un-American. It contradicts everything America was founded on: individual rights, private property, limited government, free markets. Yet here he is, leading our largest city, because we've abandoned the idea that American leaders should be deeply rooted in American culture and values. I'm not saying immigrants can't love America. Many do, more than native-born citizens. But there should be standards, time requirements, demonstrated commitment, proof of loyalty. Right now, anyone who gets citizenship can immediately run for office, and that's insane. In most countries, you need to be a citizen for decades before you can hold an office. We should have similar requirements. And we should ban dual citizenship for anyone holding office. You can't serve two masters. You shouldn't be able to serve two countries. This isn't about racism or xenophobia. This is about ensuring our leaders are actually committed to America's success, because right now, I'm not convinced they are. Let me paint you a picture of New York's future under Mamdani. Taxes will increase. He'll raise income tax on high earners. He'll increase property taxes. He'll add new taxes on businesses, all to fund his expanded social programs. The wealthy will leave. Hell, they're already leaving. This will just accelerate it. High earners are going to be moving to Florida, Texas, other states that don't have income tax. They'll take their tax revenue with them. Businesses will close or relocate. Small businesses can't afford higher taxes and more regulations. Large corporations will move headquarters out. The tax base will shrink further. To compensate, taxes will rise more. This creates a death spiral. Higher taxes drive out more people and businesses, requiring even higher taxes for those remaining. Crime will increase. Mamdani supports defunding police and bail reform. Criminals will be emboldened, and law-abiding citizens will be victimized. Those who can afford to will move to safer areas. Housing will deteriorate. Rent control will destroy incentives to maintain properties. Buildings will fall into disrepair. New construction will stop. The housing crisis will worsen. Schools will decline further. Progressive education policies will continue. Test scores will drop. More families will leave for better schools elsewhere. The subway and infrastructure will crumble. There won't be money for maintenance. Deferred maintenance will lead to breakdowns and accidents. Quality of life will plummet. Homelessness will increase. Progressive policies enable addiction and mental illness instead of treating them. Tent cities will expand. Public spaces will become unusable. The city will become unlivable for middle-class families. Only the very wealthy who can afford private security, cars, private schools, and the very poor on government assistance will remain. New York will become a two-tier society. Elites in penthouses and doorman buildings, poor people in projects and deteriorating rent-controlled apartments, and nothing in between. The city's economy will shift away from productive industries towards government employment and social services. Instead of finance, tech, media, and business services creating wealth, you'll have bureaucrats managing decline. Eventually, the city will face bankruptcy just like the 1970s. Except this time, there might not be a federal bailout, and there won't be a reservoir of talent and capital waiting to revive the city. This is what socialism does. It doesn't create prosperity. It redistributes existing wealth until there's nothing left to redistribute. Then everyone is equally poor except the people in power. New Yorkers are about to learn this lesson the hard way. Again, because apparently the 1970s weren't enough of a warning.
Good morning, New York City. Thank you. Last night we made history, and today we begin the work of making a new administration. welcome to the transition. This is the period over the next few months where we build a city hall that delivers on the promises of our campaign, to make New York City affordable and to make government accountable to the people it serves. As we prepare to govern, we'll start announcing the leaders who will help implement our agenda. People like deputy mayors who oversee entire areas of government, and the commissioners who carry out the critical work of city agencies. These appointments will be driven by excellence, integrity, and hunger to solve old problems with new solutions. Talking to organizers on the front lines of the fight to improve our city, government veterans with proven track records, policy experts from around the country and the world, and working people who know better than anyone what our neighborhoods deserve. And this will be a period, like the campaign we ran and the city hall to come, defined by transparency. Because New Yorkers deserve a government they can trust. On January 1st, I will be your mayor. New Year's Day, and a new era for this city. Oh, and one more thing. Remember how I told you a few months ago to stop sending us money? You can start again. This transition requires staff, research, and an infrastructure that can meet this moment. And it will be made possible by the people who built and believe in this movement. So I hope you'll make a donation at transition2025.com. Now let's get to work.
So what do? Those of us who see this disaster unfolding, how do we respond? First, document everything. Record what's happening. Take pictures, save articles, track statistics, because when this fails, and it will fail, the left will try to memory hold it or blame it on external factors. We need proof that socialist policies caused the decline. Second, help people escape. If you know people in New York who want to leave but feel trapped, help them. Connect them with jobs in red states. Share information about housing. Make the escape route easier. Brain drain is a feature, not a bug. Every talented, productive person who leaves New York weakens the social experiment and strengthens the red states. Third, fortify red states. We need to ensure that people fleeing blue states don't bring blue state politics with them. Yes, welcome refugees from progressive policies, but make clear they're joining our culture, not transforming it. Texas, Florida, Tennessee, don't let transplants from New York and California turn you into the places they fled. Require commitment to conservative values. Fourth, refuse bailouts when New York faces fiscal crisis, and it will. Red states must refuse to bail them out. No federal money to subsidize failure. Let blue states experience the full consequences of their choices. This sounds harsh, but it's necessary. If you keep bailing out failure, you encourage more failure. You subsidize bad behavior. Fifth, learn the lesson. Socialism doesn't work. Government control doesn't work. Progressive policies don't work. We have decades of evidence, multiple countries, countless experiments. Freedom works, capitalism works, limited government works, private property works, free markets work. Red states need to keep proving this. Keep growing, keep prospering, keep attracting businesses and families. Be the shining example that exposes blue state lies. Sixth, prepare for refugees. There will be mass migration from blue cities to red states. Infrastructure needs to be ready. Housing, schools, jobs, healthcare, but also screening. Make sure people coming from blue states actually reject the policies they're fleeing. Don't let wolves into the flock. Seventh, fight federalization. The left will try to nationalize their failed policies. Federal rent control, federal price controls, federal wealth taxes, federal control of everything. We must fight this at every level. State resistance, constitutional challenges, political opposition. These policies failed in New York. We can't let them be implemented nationwide. Eighth, never give up on the truth. Keep speaking facts. Keep sharing data. Keep explaining economics. Keep teaching history. Keep exposing lies. Most people aren't ideologues. They're just misinformed. If we can reach them with truth before the propaganda does, we can save them from making New York's mistakes. The fall of New York City is tragic. It didn't have to be this way. It shouldn't be this way. But voters chose this path. They elected socialists. They embraced destructive policies. And now they'll suffer the consequences. This isn't Schadenfreude. I don't take pleasure in watching a great city decline. I have family in New York. I have friends there. I have memories there. New York was once the greatest city in the world, the symbol of American dynamism and opportunity. But that New York is dying, being replaced by a socialist dystopia where government controls everything. Nobody is safe. And only the elite prosper while everyone else suffers. The question is whether the rest of America will learn from New York's mistake or repeat it. I want to leave you with the verse mentioned earlier. Proverbs 29:2 says, "When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn." New York just put the wicked in authority. The people are about to mourn. But the righteous can still rejoice. In the places where wisdom prevails, where freedom is cherished, where God's principles are honored, red states stay strong, stay free, stay prosperous, be the beacon that shows there's a better way. And pray for New York. Pray that the people wake up before it's too late. Pray that the leaders arise who will reject socialism and embrace freedom. Pray that America's greatest city can be redeemed. But don't hold your breath, because right now, New York has chosen its path. And that path leads to ruin. If you found this episode helpful, please share it, like it, and subscribe so you don't miss future conversations. And if you found value in what I'm doing or you want to support my work, consider becoming a member on Patreon at Courage in the Darkness, where you can find even more content and get early access and free merch. Thank you for listening. Stay free, stay vigilant, and God bless.